Hello, welcome to my video about the 2-5-1 progression, particularly in G. We're doing this in G because I have a lot of folks working on Fly Me to the Moon in G right now. This also applies to Autumn Leaves in the key of E minor, which a lot of us start that way if you're using a real book chart. And there are plenty of other songs and plenty of other occasions where this will apply, especially if you transpose that 2-5 and of course also transpose the idea that we're talking about, or whatever idea that would be. Okay, so bearing in mind, mostly what we're talking about here is 2-5, A minor 7, to D7, to G major 7. Sorry, the farther away it gets, the harder it is to write. The rest of the progression would be C major 7, F sharp minor 7 flat 5, B7, usually a flat 9 because that's part of the minor scale, ending up with E minor. I think 6 is usually a nice choice there. We could do minor 7 though too. One reason I chose this progression is because they're so common. You have a major 2-5-1 and a minor 2-5-1, and a lot of folks will actually start with the song Autumn Leaves, partly for that reason. I think also because it's in the key of G and E minor, which are very guitar-friendly keys. But regardless of why we're doing it, let's jump in and do it. So I had tried to do a video and I messed up too much, so this is my second attempt. But might as well go with what's already here. So we're going to start with a 3-note chord made popular by Freddie Green, who was Count Basie's guitar player. We're going to do an A, G, and C to give us our A minor 7 chord. So A, G, and C. A lot of times in chord grids, you'll see this a much bigger voicing, which is fine and has its applications, but part of the reason I'm doing this video is because I want to give you something that you can zip around with easier. Not only will it be easier to play, but it'll also be easier for you and a soloist to hear what's going on harmonically. It sort of takes the fluff away and zeroes in and provides a concise way to play the harmony or to execute it. So A minor 7, and then instead of jumping to the next root note, a lot of times there's a bass player doing that. And even if there wasn't, we don't always have to have the same bass movement every time, though it is nice to give root movement. Usually after the head, that's pretty clear, so after the melody of the song. So, a lot of that can be implied after that. Especially, and it's nice for a soloist, they have less monotony behind them. So, okay, enough talk. A minor 7, and now we're going to substitute A minor 6, A, F sharp, C for D7. If you notice the notes of the D7 chord, F sharp, A, C, F sharp, A, C. The only difference is, of course, we're leaving out the root, and like we said before, the bass players might be doing that job, and if not, well, we don't always have to spell out the root. Sometimes that can, again, get a little tedious. So, A minor 7 to A minor 6, we only have to move one finger if you voice it this way, where we have the middle finger on A, ring finger on G, which is on the 4th string, 5th fret. 3rd string, 5th fret's where I'm putting my pinky. I'm leaving everything down and just moving my ring finger. I'm moving it up so that we can hear the F sharp when it's time to play that one. And that's being played by my 1st finger. So 2, 5, and we're going to resolve it here. This is just a close way to play G major 7. Okay, now if we go to G major 6, we can play that instead of C major 7. I'm continuing in the chord progression. So 2, 5, 1, 4. If I play these with stock voicings that you might get by looking at a chord grid, here's what that would sound like. Something like that. That would be a very typical way. So I'm going to play those again. And now I'm going to do the way we do it with substitutions. Hopefully you can hear how it's essentially the same thing, the same harmonic movement. If you can't, that's okay. Maybe you just need to play it in a song with other people. Okay, so that gets us through the first 4 chords without a whole lot of movement. I didn't really spend a lot of time. G major 7 to G major 6. The reason that works is the 6 of G is E, which is the 3rd of C. So essentially what we have a G. We went from G, in this case we're leaving off the 5th. The order is actually from lowest to highest: G, F sharp, and B. And we moved to a G, E, B. And you might recognize those 3 as the 5th, 3rd, and 7th of a C major 7th chord. 5th, 3rd, and 7th respectively. So G major 7, G major 6. What I did was I switched out my first finger for my second finger, lifted up my ring finger to let the E come across. So G major 7, G major 6. Okay, I'm going to use our trick again that we used on the first 2/5. So on the A minor 7 to D7, we did an A minor 7 to A minor 6 instead to achieve essentially the same purpose. Moving on to F sharp minor 7 flat 5. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not playing a 5, so I can do the exact same voicing I did up here. This is the root 7 and minor 3rd. Minor 7 and minor 3rd. So now we have the 5th, 3rd, and 7 of B7 when we go to the F sharp minor 6. So F sharp minor 7, F sharp minor 6. We're not playing the 5th, so we don't even have to worry about the flat 5 or the flat 9 for that matter. So here's what we have. I'm going to play the chords as you might if you were looking off a chord grid. Now with the substitution. Okay, so you probably noticed there was less movement, and hopefully it's maybe the harmonic movement sounded a little more clear. And if nothing else, worst case scenario, you got to rest your fingers a little bit. Especially useful in a real that kind of thing, a faster tempo. Okay, so let's talk about some, as you notice, this is also very low, and it might sound a little dark, particularly in an ensemble, so it could get really muddy sounding. So one remedy for that is to go an octave higher. So instead of basing it off of this root, we're going to base it off these roots. So now, this is the So What chord, made famous by the song So What. It's all fourths. So we're doing essentially the same thing. We're just using it as a 4th string root. So our notes are A, D, G, and C, and those give us fourths. So A to D, so that's our root to our 4 or 11. We'll say 4, assuming that's our bass note, our lowest note. And then G, which is our minor 7, excuse me. And then C, which is our minor 3rd. You could also do it like this if you didn't want to bar the ring finger. That can be a little uncomfortable. It's also, if we're going to the next chord we're going to go to, we're just changing one note. G is being lowered to F sharp. And that's the essence of a 2/5. The G in A, when we move from a G to an F sharp, we're essentially replacing a subdominant chord with a dominant chord. A 2-5-1. If we're talking in terms of classical theory, we have subdominant, dominant, to tonic, and that's essentially what the sound is. Just like a 4-5-1 in rock and roll. And of course, that can occur in jazz, just more common in rock and roll, where we have subdominant, dominant, more tension, resolution to the 1 or the tonic. Okay, but I digress. So we're trying to do this, but we're trying to make it a little less muddy. We're trying to do a little higher. So A minor 11, D 7. The only thing that changed, the note on the second string lowered a half step. So now we have an F sharp. And a lot of things we can do for G here. You could keep this bar, play on the G on the 5th string, which is the 10th fret, and also the B on the 4th string, which is the 9th fret, keeping the bar on the top 4. So that would be our 2-5 there, and maybe an easier way. We're gonna do that again. 2, 5, and then our 1 chord. So that's G on the 4th string. D on the 3rd string, F sharp on the 2nd string, B on the 1st string. So 5th fret, 7th fret, 7th fret, 7th fret. We could also do, well, there are a lot of other things we could do, but from there we would do a G minor, let me say that again, excuse me, G major 6, that's substitutes for the C chord. We could even throw a C in. And so, here's our F sharp minor 7 flat 5 with a 4th string root. So this is like a D9, but we're leaving off the D. If you ever play a 9 chord, don't worry about that. So 4th string, 4th fret, barring the top 3 of the 5th fret for F sharp minor 7 flat 5. From there, F sharp diminished is essentially a B7 flat 9 chord, just we're leaving off the B. So here's what this one sounds like. So what I did there are so what chord, but I did it here because it was just fingers were moving in that direction. Okay, so the idea is we're finding ways to play the chords where we're not jumping all over the fretboard. Instead, maybe just changing 1 or 2 notes, or staying in the same area. Here we change 1 note. So I'm going to give you another way to achieve this kind of movement where we're moving less but creating the same harmonic quality. And I had already talked about that in the last video, so we're going to move a flat 5 away from the 7th chord. The 7th chord in our first line here is D. So this is called, commonly referred to as a tritone substitution. Tri being 3, tone referring to another word for whole steps. So some people call half steps semitones and whole steps tones. So that's where we get this word tritone. It's 3 whole steps. You could go 3 whole steps above or below D to arrive at A flat 7. And the same is true of any 7th chord. You can make this substitution. And the reason is they share a lot of the same notes. So I'm going to put A flat 7 above here, A flat, C, E flat, but if it's a flat 5, it would be D because we would lower the 5, and then a G flat, which is enharmonically the same as F sharp. So you can see they share, well, they don't share an A, but so compared to D, this would be the flat 5. The C would be the dominant 7. Of course, the D, if we're using a sharp 11 or flat 5, would be the root, or a flat 9 if we do play the natural 5 of A flat, and G flat's the 3rd. We're not playing the 5th, and the 5th is not an important note as far as chord quality. So it's a really nice substitution. So instead of playing D, we're going to play A flat 7. Creates that sound that we associate with jazz, particularly Thelonious Monk. So versus. This is a nice thing to also do in your soloing, to outline these chords through arpeggios. So if we use flat 5 substitutions, we'll start at A. I'm doing an A minor, I'm just adding an 11 there for color. A flat 7, sharp 11, G major 7. We'll do our G major 6 trick, which we talked about earlier, instead of C major 7. F sharp minor 7 flat 5. We have a 7th chord, we can sub it out now for F7. And now we're going home to E minor minor 6, or E minor 9 in that case. There's the 6. So, as you can see, there are a lot of ways to make these chord progressions flow, not only for your fingers, but also for whoever's soloing. They might be able to hear the harmony a little more clearly, which is a win for everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.